what do an atheist, an abolitionist, and an inventor have to do with Christmas? Well, without all three, one well-known Christmas hymn wouldn't be nearly as popular and might not even exist at all. Placide Cappeau was a French poet and wine merchant living in a small town in the south of France in 1847. The local parish priest had read his poetry and asked Placide to write something for the upcoming Christmas Mass. Placide agreed, and on December 3rd, while traveling to Paris, he reflected on the Nativity and was inspired to start writing. By the time his coach had pulled into Paris, Placide had finished the poem that he called Cantique de Noël, or Song of Christmas. Placide and the priest agreed that these words needed to be set to music. Adolphe Adam, a well-known composer, would write the music, and Emily Laurie, a well-known opera singer, would debut the song 3 weeks later on Christmas Eve. The church loved the song, and not just the parish in the south of France. The Catholic Church in France officially endorsed the song, and it was soon heard in every church across the country. And then suddenly, the Catholic Church, well, they withdrew their endorsement, and they banned the song from being sung. Why? Well, it turns out Placide Cappeau was an atheist and a socialist, and apparently some of his socialist ideology had made their way into this song. And Adolphe Adam, the composer, he's Jewish, and apparently the Catholic Church didn't like the idea of their new Christmas hit coming from these two individuals. So they declared Cantique de Noël as unfit for church services because of its lack of musical taste and, quote, total absence of the spirit of religion. Now, the Catholic Church may have banned the song, but the people kept on singing it. And in 1855, nearly a decade later, the song made its way across the ocean and into a new language when John Sullivan Dwight, a Unitarian minister and abolitionist, translated it from French to English and published it in his magazine, Dwight's Journal of Music. Now, unlike the Catholic Church in France, John didn't mind that this song came from an atheist writer and a Jewish composer. As a Unitarian minister, that may have made it even better. But as an abolitionist, John was particularly drawn to the third verse, especially the way he translated it. It goes like this.
Truly he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease.
That's right. This beloved and banned Christmas song is none other than O Holy Night. At least that's the title John gave it when he published the English version in his magazine. And remember, John translated and published this in 1855. That's just 4 years after abolitionist and former slave Sojourner Truth delivered her speech at the Women's Rights Convention in Akron, Ohio. It's right at the peak of Harriet Tubman's work with the Underground Railroad, and half a decade before Abraham Lincoln would be elected president and the Civil War would begin, not to mention the whole story we told last week about Philip Brooks and the song O Little Town of Bethlehem. And so with this powerful translation and this divisive time in U.S. history, the song became quite popular, especially in the North. But it's one thing to write the song, another to translate it into another language, but in 1906 it was Reginald Fessenden, a 33-year-old university professor and former chief chemist for Thomas Edison, who did something long thought impossible that amplified this song in an entirely new way. You see, Reginald was working on something new, a way to use radio waves for more than just the typical beeps and blips of coded impulses that ships use to keep in contact with other ships and offices on land. That was pretty much how radio was used back then. But this is when Reginald developed a new type of generator, and in late December of 1906, he connected a microphone, and for the first time in history, a person's voice was broadcast over the airwaves. Reginald began by reading the Christmas story from the Gospel of Luke, after all it was Christmas Eve, and having finished the reading, he picked up his violin to play a song. And you guessed it, he played none other than O Holy Night. What began as a poem written by a wine cellar, composed by a Jewish man banned by the church, has come to serve as the anthem of the abolitionist movement in its powerful revelation of the evils of slavery, to being the first song to play across the airwaves, and continuing to tearfully touch people this Christmas season and every Christmas season to come. The second Sunday of Advent is all about peace. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. So yeah, once again, this was a slightly different style of episode of The Word Made Fresh, more like last week's where I looked at A Little Town of Bethlehem. This week we're looking at O Holy Night. We got a couple more weeks of Advent. What am I going to look at next? We'll find out. And again, this might sound kind of familiar if you're a diehard Riverside online digital media fan, because a year ago I wrote an original version of this script for a podcast in Be Still and Go, our Lenten and Advent and other seasons devotional podcast. It's currently Advent right now, by the way, so that means the new season of Be Still and Go is out. You should definitely subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, or go on our website at trcnyc.org/bestillandgo, and you can listen to it online on your phone. You can download the Riverside app. You should do that. Just text this word to this number, and then you'll get the app on your phone, and all the episodes are right there too. All this to say, Be Still and Go is a daily devotional podcast for the season of Advent, Lent, other times throughout the year. And this current Advent season, every reflection comes from women. So I figured, given that the Advent Christmas story centers kind of on Mary, Elizabeth, all of those characters, let's pass the mic and hear from women during this season as well. Okay, go download apps and things, listen to Be Still and Go. See you next week for another episode of The Word Made Fresh.